Lee Hunnell stood at the window of his family's small repair shop, staring at the stars beyond the orbital colony. His hands were covered in grease from fixing an old ship engine, but his mind was far away. At 19 years old, he had already fixed more machines than most engineers twice his age. But fixing broken things was not enough anymore. He wanted to build something new, something that would change everything. The repair shop floated in orbit around Earth, part of the Sol colony that his grandmother had helped build 50 years ago. Outside the window, ships came and went, carrying goods and people across the solar system. Some went even further, jumping through space to distant star systems where other species lived. Humanity had been part of the galactic community for 30 years now, but Hanul often felt like they were still outsiders looking in. His best friend Jiwoo walked into the shop carrying 2 cups of coffee. She was studying medicine at the colony university and always stopped by after her classes. She handed him a cup and wrinkled her nose at the smell of engine oil. "Still dreaming about that academy?" she asked, sitting on a toolbox. Hanul nodded. "The Viridian Academy. It's the best school in the entire galaxy. If I could study there, I could learn things that humanity hasn't even discovered yet." Jiwoo sighed. "Hanul, no human has ever been accepted there. Not one in 30 years. Why waste your time? Someone has to be first," he said quietly. That night, Hanul sat in his tiny bedroom and pulled up the academy application on his old computer screen. The requirements made his heart sink. He needed to travel through 16 different sectors of space. In each sector, he had to get a special seal from the local authority. Then he needed to present an original research project. The whole journey would take months and cost more money than his family had. His father knocked on the door and came in. He looked tired from a long day of work. "Your mother told me you're thinking about this academy thing," he said. "I know it sounds crazy," Hanul started. His father sat down on the bed. "It sounds expensive and dangerous. Those sectors, some of them don't like humans very much. I know, but I have to try. I've been working on something. A new way to create stable passages through space. If it works, ships could travel faster and safer than ever before. But I need better equipment, better teachers to prove it." His father looked at him for a long moment. "Your grandmother would have said to go for it. She always believed we came to the stars to dream bigger." The next morning, Hanul visited his grandmother Mirai in her apartment. At 93, she was one of the oldest people in the colony. She had been part of the first wave of humans to leave Earth and build homes in space. Her walls were covered with pictures of the early days, when everything was new and scary and exciting. He told her about the academy. She listened quietly, her old hands wrapped around a cup of tea. When he finished, she reached up and took off the jade pendant she always wore. "My mother gave this to me when I left Earth," she said, placing it in his hand. "She told me it would bring me luck. I think you need it more than I do now." "Grandmother, I can't take this," Hanul protested. She closed his fingers around it. "Listen to me, child. When I came to space, everyone said it was impossible. They said humans couldn't survive out here. But we did because we refused to believe them. You have that same fire in you. Don't let anyone put it out." 3 weeks later, Hanul sold everything he owned that had any value. His collection of vintage motorcycles, his custom computer equipment, even some of the tools he had used since he was a child. It hurt to let them go, but it gave him enough money for the journey. Jiwoo came to see him off at the transport station. She hugged him tightly. "Promise me you'll be careful," she said. "And if it gets too dangerous, promise you'll come home." "I promise," he said, even though he wasn't sure he could keep it. The first ship he boarded was small and dirty, carrying cargo to the outer colonies. He shared a tiny cabin with 3 other passengers, none of them human. A tall, blue-skinned Vraxian merchant barely looked at him. 2 smaller creatures that looked like walking plants ignored him completely. Hanul realized this would be his life for the next 6 months, traveling on whatever ships he could afford. Always the outsider. The first sector was controlled by the Vraxians, a proud species that had been in space for thousands of years. Hanul arrived at their main station and asked to see the sector authority. He waited for 3 days before anyone would even talk to him. When he finally got a meeting, the Vraxian official looked at him like he was something stuck to her shoe. "A human?" she said. "Wanting to attend Viridian Academy? This is a joke, yes?" "No joke," Hanul said, keeping his voice steady. "I've met all the requirements. I just need your seal," she laughed. "Requirements? You want a seal, human? Then prove you deserve it. My ship's gravity compensator is broken. Every engineer we have says it cannot be fixed. You fix it, you get your seal. Hanul spent the next 2 days working on the compensator. It was old Vraxian technology, completely different from human designs. But machines were machines, and he understood how they worked. He traced every wire, checked every connection, and finally found the problem. A tiny crystal component had cracked. He couldn't replace it, so he built a bypass system using parts from a human ship engine. When the compensator worked again, the Vraxian official stared at him in shock. "How did you do that?" she asked. "I didn't think about how it should work," Hanul said. "I thought about how it could work." She gave him the seal, still looking confused. As he left, she called after him, "Human, maybe you are not as useless as I thought." It was the closest thing to a compliment he would get for a long time. The second sector was easier. The third was harder. In the fourth sector, he met a Quellan philosopher who gave him a logic puzzle that was supposed to be unsolvable. Hanul solved it in 6 hours by approaching it in a way no one had tried before. The philosopher was so excited that he gave Hanul the seal and asked him to explain his thinking for 3 more hours. Sector after sector, Hanul collected seals. Some authorities tested his intelligence. Some tested his patience. One made him climb a mountain on a high-gravity world just to prove his determination. His money ran low. He worked odd jobs, fixing things for food and passage on ships. He slept in storage rooms and cargo holds. His clothes became worn, his face thin from irregular meals, but he kept going. Every night he touched his grandmother's jade pendant and remembered her words. Humans didn't survive in space by giving up. They survived by refusing to believe something was impossible. The 16th and final sector was the hardest. It was controlled by the Crithani, a military species that barely tolerated humans. Their sector commander, General Vex, made Hanul wait 37 days before agreeing to meet him. When the meeting finally came, Hanul was brought to a cold metal room with no windows. General Vex was massive, easily 3 meters tall, with gray skin like stone, and eyes that glowed red. He circled Hanul slowly like a predator studying prey. "You want to go to Viridian Academy?" Vex said. His voice sounded like grinding rocks. "Tell me why a weak species like yours deserves to learn with the galaxy's best." Hanul met his eyes. "Because we have something to offer. We see problems differently. We find solutions others miss. You are young, weak. Your species has been in space for barely a moment. What could you possibly teach us?" "That anything is possible," Hanul said. "If you're willing to try." Vex stared at him for a long moment. Then surprisingly he laughed. It was not a kind sound. "The Academy will destroy you, human. They do not want your kind there. But I will give you the seal. I want to see what happens when they try to break you." He pressed the final seal onto Hanul's documentation chip. As Hanul turned to leave, Vex spoke again. "Human, you have courage. That will not be enough, but perhaps it is something." Hanul left the Crithani sector with all 16 seals. He was exhausted, nearly broke, and thinner than he had ever been. But he had done it. 6 months of travel, countless tests, and more rejection than he could count. Now only one challenge remained: the Academy itself. The Viridian Academy appeared in Hanul's viewport like a dream made real. It was massive, larger than any space station he had ever seen. Parts of it seemed to flicker in and out of existence, as if the structure existed in more than one place at the same time. Crystal towers twisted into shapes that should not be possible. Gardens floated in bubbles of atmosphere, filled with plants from 1,000 different worlds. His transport ship docked at the visitor's port. Hanul grabbed his single bag, everything he owned now fitting into one worn pack, and stepped onto the Academy station. The corridors were full of students from species he had never seen before. They walked, floated, and slithered past him, talking in languages he couldn't understand. No one looked at him twice. He was just another applicant, and not a very impressive one at that. The admissions hall was enormous, with a ceiling so high Hanul couldn't see the top. Hundreds of applicants waited in lines, each one accompanied by servants, family members, or advisors. Many carried expensive gifts. Some wore clothes that probably cost more than Hanul's entire journey. Hanul joined the shortest line and waited. The being in front of him was a Selenarian, with silver skin that shimmered like water and wings folded against their back. When it was finally Hanul's turn, the Selenarian registrar looked down at him with clear distaste. "Name and species," the registrar said in a bored voice. "Lee Hanul." Human. The registrar's eyes widened. Human, you cannot be serious. This academy has standards. Hunnell pulled out his documentation chip and placed it on the desk. I have all 16 sector seals and an original research proposal. I've met every requirement. The registrar, whose name badge said Silverwing at dawn, picked up the chip like it was something dirty. These seals could be fake. The research is probably stolen. I think we should just reject this application now and save everyone's time. The seals are real, Hunnell said, trying to keep his voice steady. You can verify them. Silverwing was about to respond when a voice echoed through the hall. It was quiet, but somehow reached every corner of the enormous room. Send him through, everyone froze. Silverwing's silver skin went pale. But Dean, this is highly irregular. A human has never even been interviewed before. Send him through, the voice repeated, firmer this time. Silverwing looked like he wanted to argue, but instead he called over a small floating robot. Take the human to the dean's office immediately. Hunnell followed the robot through corridors that seemed to change as he walked through them. Sometimes the walls were metal, sometimes crystal. Sometimes they looked like they were made of light itself. Other students stared as he passed. He heard whispers in languages he didn't understand, but the tone was clear enough. Shock, confusion, some anger. Finally, the robot stopped at a door that seemed to be made of space itself, stars twinkling in its surface. The door opened without anyone touching it, and Hunnell stepped inside. The office was impossible. It seemed larger on the inside than the outside, with walls that showed different places, different times. Books floated in the air, organizing themselves. A desk sat in the center, made of what looked like compressed starlight, and behind the desk sat the dean. The dean looked humanoid, which surprised Hunnell. They appeared elderly, with flowing robes that seemed to shift colors like an oil slick. Their face was kind but hard to focus on, as if Hunnell's eyes couldn't quite grasp what they were seeing. When the dean spoke, their voice was gentle, but Hunnell felt it in his bones. Lee Hunnell, the dean said. Please sit. Hunnell sat in a chair that appeared out of nowhere. The dean picked up his documentation chip and reviewed it, but Hunnell had the feeling they already knew everything on it. 16 seals, the dean said. Impressive, especially for someone so young. Tell me about your research. Hunnell had practiced this speech 100 times, but now his mind went blank. He took a breath and started. I've been studying quantum foam, the fabric of space itself. Most scientists think it's too unstable to use, but I think I found a way to stabilize it, to create permanent corridors through space. Ships could travel faster and safer than ever before. The dean leaned forward. Most would say that's impossible. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical. That's because they're thinking about it wrong, Hunnell said, getting excited despite his nerves. They try to force the foam to stay stable. But what if we work with it instead? Let it flow naturally but guide the flow, like surfing a wave instead of trying to stop the ocean. The dean was quiet for a moment. Then they waved their hand and a holographic star map appeared in the air. Look at this. Do you see a pattern? Hunnell studied the map. At first he saw nothing but random stars. Then slowly a pattern emerged. It was mathematical, elegant, like a song written in light. His breath caught. It was the same pattern he had been dreaming about for years, the one that appeared in his equations, but he never understood why. You see it, the dean said. It wasn't a question. I've seen it before, in my dreams, in my work. I never knew what it meant, the dean nodded slowly. Perhaps you will learn what it means here. Lee Hunnell, I am accepting your application to Viridian Academy. You will begin classes next week. Hunnell couldn't believe it. I'm accepted? Just like that? Just like that, the dean confirmed. But understand this, young human. You will face challenges here that will test not just your intelligence, but who you are as a person. Many will want you to fail. Some will work to ensure it. The question is, will you let them? No, Hunnell said firmly. I didn't come this far to give up now. The dean smiled. Good. I will be watching your progress with great interest. Now go. Your dormitory assignment is being processed. Hunnell left the office in a daze. He was actually in. He touched his grandmother's pendant and wished she could be here to see this moment. The dormitory was in a different section of the academy. Hunnell's room was small but comfortable, with a window that looked out onto one of the floating gardens. He had 3 roommates. The first was Rix, a being made entirely of crystal that glowed with soft light. Rix communicated through patterns of light that Hanul's translator device struggled to interpret. The second roommate was Thorin, a tall Vraxian with blue skin and an attitude that made Silverwing look friendly. Thorin took one look at Hanul and sneered. A human? This must be someone's idea of a joke. I'm requesting a room transfer immediately. The third roommate surprised him. She was human. Her name was Yuna, and she had been at the academy for 2 years. She was the first human ever accepted, though Hanul had never heard of her. You're human? Hanul said, relief flooding through him. I thought I was the only one. Yuna looked at him with cold eyes. I was the only one, and I preferred it that way. Having another human here just makes things harder. They'll compare us, judge us together. Don't expect me to help you. She turned and walked to her section of the room, putting up a privacy screen. Hanul stood there feeling more alone than he had felt in months. That night he lay in his bed and looked out at the stars. He had made it to the academy, but he was starting to understand what the dean meant. The real test wasn't getting in. It was surviving here, proving he belonged, while surrounded by people who didn't want him to succeed. His first classes started the next day. The subjects were unlike anything he had studied before. Multi-dimensional mathematics that made his head hurt, temporal mechanics that suggested time wasn't what humans thought it was, xenopsychology that explained how different species thought in fundamentally different ways. In every class, he was behind. The other students had been raised with concepts that humanity had never discovered. They spoke about things that had no words in human languages. Teachers explained things once and moved on, expecting everyone to understand. Hanul filled notebooks with questions he was too embarrassed to ask, but in practical applications he excelled. When given a broken device to repair, he fixed it faster than anyone else. When asked to design a solution to a problem, his approaches were different, creative, sometimes better than the traditional methods. His professors didn't know what to make of him. Neither did his classmates. One evening, as Hanul struggled through homework in the common area, Rix approached him, the crystal being pulsed with light patterns that Hanul's translator rendered as, "You think differently." Not wrong, different, interesting. It was the first kind thing anyone had said to him since he arrived. "Thank you," Hanul said. "I think you're interesting too." Rix sat down, their crystalline body refracting the light into rainbows. "Why did you come here?" "Humans are not welcome. You must have known." "Because it was hard," Hanul said. "Because everyone said I couldn't. My grandmother told me we came to the stars to dream bigger. I'm trying to live up to that." Rix pulsed with what might have been approval. "Your grandmother sounds wise. Perhaps we can study together. Your different thinking might help me. My different thinking might help you." And so Hanul found his first friend at Viridian Academy. It wasn't the welcome he had hoped for, but it was a start. 3 months into his first year, Hanul had fallen into a routine. Wake early, study late, struggle through classes where everyone seemed smarter than him. But he was surviving, and that was more than many expected. His friendship with Rix grew stronger. The crystalline being had a way of explaining complex ideas that made them clearer. And Hanul's creative approaches to problems helped Rix see solutions from new angles. Thorin remained hostile, though he had stopped requesting room transfers after the third rejection. Yuna kept her distance, barely speaking to Hanul beyond necessary politeness. But Hanul noticed something strange. Every few weeks, the dean would summon him for private meetings. They never discussed classes. Instead, the dean asked odd questions about human culture, about emotions, about things that seemed to have nothing to do with academics. "Tell me about love," the dean asked during one meeting. "How do humans understand it?" Hanul blinked, confused. "Love? I'm not sure I'm the best person to ask. I've spent most of my life with machines." "But you understand the concept," the dean pressed. "The willingness to sacrifice for another. To put someone else's needs above your own. To believe in someone even when logic says you shouldn't." Hanul thought about his grandmother giving him her pendant, his parents supporting his journey despite the cost. Chiwu staying his friend even when he was difficult. "Yes, I understand it. It's believing in impossible things because they matter to you." The dean nodded slowly as if Hanul had confirmed something important. These conversations left Hanul feeling unsettled. Other students whispered about the dean's interest in him. Some professors looked at him with suspicion. He was beginning to understand that being noticed by the dean wasn't entirely a good thing. Then the Academy announced the Celestial Crucible. It was a competition held once every 50 years, where students formed teams to solve an impossible problem. This year's challenge was to design a theoretical megastructure that could stabilize a dying star system and make it livable again. Teams of 3 were required. Rix immediately asked Hanul to partner with them. Your human creativity plus my understanding of energy matrices. We could do well. We need a third, Hanul said. Someone good with structural engineering. Rix's lights dimmed. That is the problem. No one wants to team with a human. They think you will bring the team down. For 2 days they searched for a third member. Every student they asked refused. Some were polite about it, others were not. Finally, surprisingly, Thorin approached them. I'll join your team, he said, not looking at Hanul. Why? Hanul asked, suspicious. Because everyone expects you to fail. When we win, it will prove that even a human can be useful with proper guidance. My family will be pleased. It wasn't exactly a warm invitation, but they needed a third member. Hanul agreed. The work was brutal. They had 3 months to design something that would make other teams jealous. Dying stars collapsed in on themselves, creating massive gravitational problems. The traditional solution was to build a sphere around the star to capture its energy, but that wouldn't stop the collapse. Hanul looked at the problem differently. What if we don't try to stop the collapse? What if we use it? Thorin scoffed. That's ridiculous. The gravity would destroy everything. Unless we redirect it, Hanul said, sketching rapidly. Create a network of quantum tunnels that channel the gravitational energy outward. Use it to power the system instead of fighting it. Rix's lights pulsed excitedly. That could work. The energy output would be enormous. We could power cities, terraform planets, all from the dying star itself. Even Thorin looked interested. The math would be complex. But yes, it might be possible. For weeks they worked together. Hanul's creative ideas, Rix's energy calculations, and Thorin's structural engineering combined into something remarkable. Their design used the dying star's own collapse to create a stable system that could support life for millions of years. It was elegant, efficient, and completely unlike anything anyone else was doing. The night before the final presentation, Hanul returned to their workspace to check the calculations one last time. He found Thorin there, alone, doing something to their presentation files. What are you doing? Hanul asked. Thorin spun around, looking guilty. Nothing. Just reviewing the work. But Hanul saw the screen. Thorin had been deleting files, corrupting data. You're sabotaging us, why? Thorin's face twisted with anger and shame. My family. They found out I was working with a human. They said it was disgraceful. If we win, it proves a human can succeed. They can't allow that. They ordered me to make sure we fail. But you helped build this, Hanul said. This is your work too. You destroy that because your family is prejudiced? You don't understand. In Vraxian culture, family honor is everything. I have no choice. There's always a choice, Hanul said. You can choose to be better than them. Thorin stared at him for a long moment, then pushed past him and left. Hanul looked at the corrupted files. Most of their presentation was destroyed. The competition was tomorrow. There was no way to rebuild everything in time. He called Rix immediately. When the crystalline being arrived and saw the damage, their lights flickered with distress. This is bad. 3 months of work gone. Not gone, Hanul said. The files are corrupted, but the ideas are still in our heads. We can rebuild the presentation from memory. We just need to work all night. That's impossible. There are thousands of calculations, hundreds of diagrams. You keep saying things are impossible, Hanul said with a tired smile. Haven't you learned yet? That just means we have to try harder. They worked through the night. Hanul recreated the core design from memory. Rix recalculated the energy matrices. When morning came, they had something. It wasn't as polished as before, rougher around the edges, but the heart of the idea was there. The presentation hall was packed. Hundreds of students and faculty gathered to watch the final teams present. Thorin was nowhere to be seen. Hanul and Rix took the stage alone. Hanul's hands shook as he started the presentation. His voice cracked at first, but grew stronger as he explained their design. He showed how the dying star's collapse could be harnessed, how quantum tunnels could redirect gravitational energy, how the whole system would sustain itself for eons. The audience was silent. Hanul couldn't tell if it was good or bad. Then a professor stood up. This is revolutionary. The math is complex but sound. The application of quantum mechanics is unlike anything I've seen. another professor added. The approach is entirely unique. Instead of fighting natural forces, it works with them. Elegant. When the judges announced the winner an hour later, Hanul could barely believe it. His team. They had won. The hall erupted in mixed reactions. Some students cheered. Others looked angry or shocked. Silver Wing at Dawn, the registrar who had tried to reject Hanul, sat in the back with a face like stone. That evening, Hanul found a message waiting for him. It was from Yuna, just 2 words. Be careful. The next morning, Yuna was gone. Her belongings were cleared out, her academic records sealed. No one would say where she went or why. It was as if she had never existed. A week later, Hanul received another summons from the dean. This time, when he entered the impossible office, the dean looked different. Their form seemed less stable, flickering at the edges. Your victory has attracted attention, the dean said. Not all of it welcome. There are forces at work here that you do not yet understand. What kind of forces? Hanul asked. The dean was quiet for a long moment. Ancient ones. Those who have been watching humanity since you first reached the stars. They have been waiting for someone like you. The question is, what will they do now that you are here? Before Hanul could ask what that meant, he noticed something. On the dean's desk was a datapad showing Yuna's last message to him. But Hanul had never told anyone about that message. The dean shouldn't know about it. Unless the dean was watching him far more closely than he realized. Who are you really? Hanul asked quietly. The dean smiled, but it was a sad smile. That young human is the question you must answer. But not today. Today you should enjoy your victory. Tomorrow, the real challenges begin. Hanul left the office with more questions than answers, but one thing was becoming clear. The academy was not what it seemed. The dean was not what they seemed. And his acceptance here had set something in motion, something that had been waiting for a very long time. Sleep became difficult for Hanul after Yuna's disappearance. Every night he dreamed of that strange pattern the dean had shown him months ago. The mathematical sequence that appeared in his work, in his dreams, in the stars themselves. He started seeing it everywhere, hidden in the academy's architecture, in the flow of students through corridors, in the way energy moved through systems. One night, unable to sleep, he wandered the academy halls. Most students were asleep and the corridors were quiet. He found himself in a section he had never seen before, where the walls were lined with ancient books and data crystals. A library, but one that didn't appear on any academy map. As he explored, he found a small alcove hidden behind a shelf of books that looked like they hadn't been touched in centuries. Inside was a data terminal, old but still functioning. On its screen was a simple message, for those who seek truth, Yuna. His hands trembled as he activated the terminal. Files appeared, thousands of them, all encrypted, but one file was marked with his name. He opened it. It was a video message. Yuna appeared on screen, looking tired and scared. Hanul, if you're watching this, it means I had to leave. I'm sorry I was cold to you. I was trying to protect you. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about this place. She took a breath. The Viridian Academy wasn't founded by the Galactic Council. It's much older than that, built by a species called the Architects. They existed millions of years ago and seeded life across the galaxy. Then they vanished. But they left this place behind, searching for something. A species with a specific quality they called the catalyst. Hanul's blood went cold. The pattern. The dean's strange questions. It was all connected. Yuna continued. I found evidence that suggests humans might be that species. The way we think, the way we solve problems, it matches what the architects were looking for. And the dean knows. That's why they accepted you. That's why they watch you. Hanul, there are people who discovered this truth before me. They call themselves the inheritors. They want to use this knowledge to make humanity dominant in the galaxy. They tried to recruit me. I refused. That's why I had to run. The message ended with coordinates to other hidden files. Hanul spent the rest of the night reading. The archives contained fragments of architect history, records that had been hidden for thousands of years. The architects had been brilliant, powerful, and nearly perfect. But they had discovered a terrible truth. Perfection led to stagnation. Their logic was flawless, their science complete, but they could not create anything truly new. They were dying of their own success, so they searched for a species that could do what they couldn't. A species that could hold contradictory ideas, believe in impossible things, and make them real through sheer determination. They found intelligence everywhere, but not this special quality. Then they vanished, leaving the academy as a test, waiting for the right species to emerge. Dawn found Hanol still in the hidden library, his mind reeling. Everything he thought he knew was wrong. He wasn't here because of his intelligence. He was here because of something deeper, something fundamental to being human. He had to confront the dean. He had to know the truth. But when he arrived at the dean's office, the door was already open. The dean was waiting, and this time they looked different. Their humanoid form was fading, revealing something vast and ancient underneath. Not one being, but many. A consciousness spread across dimensions. "You found Yuna's message," the dean said. It wasn't a question. "You're them," Hanul said. "You're the architects, or what's left of them." The dean nodded. "We are the last echo of our kind, preserved in a form that can interact with your reality. We have been waiting here for 15,000 years, maintaining the academy, testing species, searching for the one quality we lacked." "And you think humans have it?" Hanil said. "We don't think. We know. We saw it the moment your species reached the stars. The way you dream of impossible futures and refuse to accept limitations. The way you hold hope even when logic says there is none. This is not illogical thinking, as some species believe. It is a fundamental property of consciousness that allows you to perceive and shape reality at its deepest level." Hanul felt dizzy. "So what happens now? You use us? Make us into some kind of tool?" "No," the dean said softly. "We discovered too late that our perfection made us incomplete. We could build universes but could not truly create, because creation requires the irrational spark that only species like yours possess. We don't want to use you. We want you to teach the galaxy what we never could. But others don't see it that way," Hanul said, remembering Yuna's message. "The inheritors. They want to use this power to dominate." The dean's form flickered with what might have been sadness. "Yes, and the Galactic Council fears you for the same reason. They see humanity's potential and are terrified. They want to suppress it, control it, ensure the power structure never changes. Both paths lead to stagnation or destruction." Before Hanil could respond, alarms blared throughout the academy. Emergency lights flashed. Through the impossible window in the dean's office, Hanul saw ships approaching. Military vessels, Krithani design, heavily armed. "They're here," the dean said. "The Galactic Council has decided to act. They will take control of the academy, suppress the knowledge of the architects, and ensure humanity never learns what it can do." More alarms. Different ships arriving from another direction. Hanul recognized the design. Human vessels, but modified, powerful. "The inheritors. And there are those who want to seize this power," the dean continued. "The academy has become a battleground. Two forces, both wrong, both convinced they are right." A message came through Hanul's communicator. It was from someone claiming to be Park Dae-hyun, leader of the inheritors. "Lee Hanul, we know what you've learned. We know what you are. Join us. Together we can show the galaxy that humanity's time has come. No more begging for acceptance. No more being treated as inferiors." Another message, this one from General Vex, who had given Hanul his final seal months ago. "Human, the Council orders you to surrender yourself for evaluation. This knowledge is too dangerous for your kind. Submit peacefully and you will not be harmed." Hanul looked at the dean. "What should I do?" The dean's form was fading faster now, becoming transparent. "This is the true test, Lee Hanul. Not of your intelligence, but of your humanity. The inheritors offer power through domination. The Council offers safety through submission. Both will destroy what makes your species special." "There has to be another way," Hanul said. "That is the human answer," the dean said with what might have been a smile. "When faced with two bad choices, you imagine a third. This is what we could never do. This is why you are the catalyst." The academy shook as ships began to dock. Hanul could hear sounds of conflict in the corridors. Students were evacuating. Faculty were choosing sides. Everything was falling apart. Rix burst into the office, lights flashing with alarm. "Hanul, we must leave." It's not safe, but Hanul wasn't listening. He was thinking. The inheritors wanted to use humanity's gift to dominate. The Council wanted to suppress it. Both saw power as something to be controlled. But what if that was wrong? What if the real power was in sharing and lifting others up in cooperation instead of domination? His grandmother's words echoed in his mind. "We came to the stars to dream bigger. Not to conquer. Not to submit. To dream bigger." "I know what to do," Hanul said suddenly. I know the third path. The dean looked at him with ancient eyes. Then show them, young human. Show the galaxy what we spent 1,000,000 years searching for. Show them what it means to hope. Hanul turned to Rix. Gather everyone you can. Students, faculty, anyone who will listen. Tell them to meet in the Great Hall. I'm going to show them something impossible. Rix's lights flickered with confusion but also trust. What will you show them? Hanul smiled. It was the same smile he had when he fixed the impossible gravity compensator months ago. The smile that said he saw a solution no one else could see. The future, he said. All the futures that could be if we choose to believe in them. The Great Hall filled quickly despite the chaos. Students came because Rick spread the word with an urgency that couldn't be ignored. Faculty came out of curiosity. Even some of the arriving forces sent representatives, unwilling to miss what was about to happen. The inheritors were there, led by Park Dae-hyun, a stern man with eyes that burned with ambition. General Vex attended via hologram, his massive form looming over the assembly. Hanul stood on the stage, looking out at hundreds of faces from dozens of species. Some looked curious. Many looked skeptical. A few looked hostile. He touched his grandmother's pendant for courage. Most of you know me as the human who somehow got accepted here, he began. His voice shook at first, then steadied. Some of you think I don't belong. Some think I'm a joke. Some think I'm a threat. You're all wrong. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Park Dae-hyun stepped forward. Lee Hanul, you've learned the truth about humanity's potential. Join us. Together we can claim what is rightfully ours. No, Hanul said firmly. That's exactly the wrong path. And so is the Council's fear. You both want to control something that can't be controlled. You both miss the point. General Vex's hologram spoke, his voice like grinding stone. The Council's decision is final. This knowledge is too dangerous. Surrender now. Watch first, Hanul said. Then decide. He pulled out a small device he had built in the last hour, using principles from his winning competition design combined with techniques from the hidden archives. It was crude, unstable, but it would work once. He activated it. The air in the hall shimmered. Reality bent, and suddenly everyone in the room could see what Hanul saw. Not the present, but possibilities. Futures that could exist, branching out like a tree of light. One branch showed the inheritors' path. Humanity dominant, powerful, feared. Other species subjugated or rebellious. The galaxy locked in endless conflict. Humanity strong but alone, hated, eventually destroyed by the very power it sought to wield. Another branch showed the Council's path. Humanity suppressed, controlled, their potential locked away, safe but stagnant. The galaxy stable but unchanging, slowly dying of its own rigidity, unable to adapt to new challenges. But there was a third branch, brighter than the others. It showed something different. The Academy transformed, not ruled by ancient authority, but by cooperation. Species working together, each contributing their unique strengths. Humans teaching others to dream while learning wisdom from elder races. Knowledge shared freely. Problems solved that no single species could solve alone. The galaxy not perfect, still struggling, still arguing, but alive. Growing, becoming more than the sum of its parts. The vision faded. The hall was silent. Hanul could see the impact on every face. Some had tears. Others looked shaken. Even General Vex's hologram seemed less certain. That's what humanity can do, Hanul said into the silence. Not conquer. Not submit. We can see possibilities and believe in them so strongly that we make them real. But we can't do it alone. And we shouldn't want to. The architects were wrong about one thing. They thought they needed to find the one perfect species. But there is no perfect species. There's only all of us working together, each bringing something unique. Park Dae-hyun looked conflicted. You showed us humanity dominant in one future, strong, powerful. Why would we choose anything less? Because that future ends badly, Hanul said. You saw it. Power through domination always does. My grandmother taught me that we came to the stars not to conquer them, but to grow beyond what we were. If we seize power now, we prove every fear about us, right? But if we extend our hand instead of our fist, we prove that humanity's real strength was never our ability to dominate. It's our capacity to hope, to imagine better ways, to refuse to give up on impossible dreams. Silverwing at dawn, the registrar who had tried to reject Hanul months ago, stood up. If we accept this, everything changes. The Academy's entire structure, our traditions, our authority. How can we trust that it will work? You can't, Hanul admitted. That's what makes it hard. That's what makes it worth doing. Trust has to be earned on both sides. But I've seen what we can accomplish when we work together. Rix and I, we come from completely different worlds, think in completely different ways. But together we created something neither of us could have done alone. That's the future I want. Not human supremacy. Not suppression. Just cooperation. Just the chance to build something better together. Rick stepped forward, lights pulsing with a pattern Hanul had learned meant determination. I support this. Hanul showed me that different is not wrong. It is valuable. If we vote to transform the academy, I vote yes. More students stood. One by one, voices joined. Even Thorin, who had sabotaged their project, stepped forward. I was wrong. I let fear and pride control me. This human showed me that courage isn't fighting. It's choosing to be better than your worst instincts. I vote yes. The tide was turning. Park Daehyun watched his vision of human dominance crumble. He looked at Hanul for a long moment, then sighed. I wanted to make humanity strong. But strength that makes enemies of everyone is just another kind of weakness. You're right. I was wrong. He turned to his followers. Stand down. We take the harder path. General Vex's hologram flickered. The council will not accept this easily. They fear change. Then help us show them they don't need to fear it, Hanul said. You gave me my final seal because you wanted to see what would happen. Well, this is what happens. Something new. Something better. Are you brave enough to support it? For a long moment, Vex was silent. Then, incredibly, the massive warrior smiled. You have more courage than sense, human. But perhaps that is exactly what the galaxy needs. I will speak to the council. I make no promises, but I will speak. The dean appeared at the edge of the stage, their form nearly transparent now. The vote must be taken. All who support transforming this academy into a truly collaborative institution, speak now. The response was overwhelming. Not unanimous, but strong. Students from dozens of species voted yes. Faculty members joined them. Even some of the council representatives moved by the vision added their support. The dean's form began to dissolve into light. Then it is done. For 15,000 years we waited. Now our vigil ends. The academy is yours. All of yours. Use it wisely. Wait, Hanul called out. What happens to you? The dean's voice was fading but peaceful. We rest. Our purpose is complete. We searched for the catalyst because we believed it would solve our incompleteness. But you taught us the final lesson. There is no solution. Only the endless work of trying to be better. That is what makes you special. Not power, but perseverance. Not perfection, but the refusal to stop growing. The light that was the dean scattered like stars, filling the hall with gentle radiance. Then it faded, and they were gone. In the silence that followed, Hanul felt the weight of what had just happened. The academy was free. The knowledge of the architects was available to all. The galaxy had a chance to change, but it was just a chance. Making it real would take work. Years of work. Maybe centuries. 5 years later, Hanul stood in a garden on what was now called the Nexus Collegium. Cherry trees bloomed around him, a gift from Earth, their petals drifting on artificial winds. The academy had transformed beyond recognition. Species that had been enemies now worked side by side. Knowledge flowed freely. Students learned not just facts but perspectives, seeing problems through different eyes. Hanul served on a rotating council of deans, no longer an authority figure but a facilitator. Rix worked beside him, their partnership now legendary. They had made breakthrough after breakthrough in temporal mechanics, achievements that would have taken centuries for either species alone. Jiwoo visited from Earth, now a renowned doctor whose work bridged human and alien medicine. She brought news from home. Grandmother Mireille had passed peacefully at 98. Her last words a message for Hanul. You showed them what it could be. Now keep showing them. A young student approached nervously, a Quellan girl struggling with her thesis. Hanul invited her to sit and talk. As they discussed her work, he realized this was what the architects had been searching for all along. Not a species with special powers, but a species that would remind the galaxy what it means to hope, to dream, to reach for the impossible and refuse to accept that anything is truly beyond reach. Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't power. It was the reminder that progress requires courage, that growth demands risk, and that the greatest strength is not the ability to stand alone, but the wisdom to stand together. Hanul looked out at the students walking the garden paths, arguing theories, sharing meals. building friendships across the boundaries of biology and culture. The cherry blossoms drifted past, each petal a small piece of home, a reminder of where he came from and why it mattered. He touched the jade pendant, now worn smooth from years of worried fingers. His grandmother had been right. They hadn't come to the stars to play it safe. They came to dream bigger, and sometimes if you dreamed hard enough, if you believed strongly enough, if you refused to give up no matter how impossible things seemed, you could change not just your own future but everyone's. That was the human way. That was the gift. And the galaxy was finally ready to receive it.